how the legislature responded. Ms. Carmona, we will begin with you.
Yeah, finding out at the last minute after all this money had been invested for congestion pricing was very disappointing. As someone who has always been a commuter, I don't drive, I don't own a vehicle, I depend on MTA, and seeing how we are in desperate need of fixing our MTA system. We have issues with climate, air quality. Hold on, someone's like putting, do you mind if you go for the camera? Thank you. It was going straight to my eye, I'm sorry. But seeing how we're desperate need that we do, how desperately we needed this for our city, and it was very disappointing because right now even in this, if we're looking at the 7 line, right now it's Court Square, Queensboro Plaza, and 61st Street that only have elevators. And this is someone that has a disabled mother, and I know the seniors that are here, and they can't take they can't even take the train. These are necessary upgrades that we're desperate in the district, as well as even look at where with Bridgewood, it's a transportation desert. And it's so difficult for people to get from one place to another. I think that I will call out that some people in the community, and I had voiced this before, the biggest concerns were for a lot of public servants like teachers that said that these $15 would have been a burden on them, as well as a lot of people with disabilities and seniors, because the exemption wasn't only included like accessoride and someone that also owns a vehicle, which actually leaves out a lot of people with disabilities and seniors, as well as medallion owners. So I expressed that because that is exactly what I heard was the concern when I was knocking on doors when it came to congestion pricing. But it was very upsetting, and it would have been something I would have worked towards because we do desperately need that in this district.
Ms. Carmona, if I could ask a follow-up, the question is more about how you would have responded if you had been in this situation in Albany. Of course, people have their opinions on their congestion pricing. I think everyone in this city has their opinions on congestion pricing, and we appreciate that. But if you could speak very briefly as to how you would have responded specifically had you been up in Albany last Wednesday when this happened.
I would have joined many of the electeds in showing our disapproval of congestion pricing. I think also asking Governor Hochul as to why she pulled the plug at the very last minute when the infrastructure was already put in, cameras were put in, all this money was invested. So I think that would have been my stance as to asking why in specifics, and also the MTA too.
Ms. Valdez.
Yes, I was at a rally this morning actually with some folks here about congestion pricing and demanding that it goes forth the way that it was supposed to on June 30th. Infrastructure was already in place, plans were made, we were ready to go, and capital improvements are just going unfunded now. Elevators that we desperately need, switch changes that we desperately need, expanding public transit in places like Mascot where there just isn't sufficient transit. It took me over an hour to get here from Ridgewood. It almost always does. It's ridiculous. I'm appreciative that many of our assembly members and state senators stood up against Hochul in Albany. I would have joined them in doing so and voting and refusing to pass any kind of stopgap measure that would have temporarily funded the MTA or offered some kind of patchwork solution. The real solution is congestion pricing. We need that $15 billion and more over the course of the next many years if we're going to make the MTA actually work for working people. And it's whatever plan she put forward, the IOU, it's insufficient. I would have voted no. If it had come to a vote, I would have made sure that we can stand up against Governor Hochul. This is a deeply undemocratic unilateral decision. And New York City has a responsibility to lead on this issue. We are going to be the first city in the United States to have congestion pricing. Every other major city in the United States is looking to us as an example here. And we have failed not just the millions of people who ride the MTA, but we've failed in approaching our climate mandates. We've failed to be a leading light in the rest of the United States on this project.
All right. Okay, so